Hi, it's Diane, and I'm here to tell you another story. Today I'd like to tell you the story about Bathsheba. Bathsheba and David. And you probably think you already know it, but I hope you'll enjoy it and listen anyway, because this is a really good story, and it has a lot of lessons. In fact, it's taken me a while to do it. So, let me tell you, it is in the 2nd Samuel and chapter 11, and it goes like this. So David, the king of all Israel, powerful and mighty in battle. It said it was the spring of the year when all the kings go out to war. So David didn't go. David sent all the guys out there, and he said, I'm not going to go, y'all. I'm just going to hang out here at the house. And maybe I just kind of, see what's happening here in town, because I'm just not going. I'm tired of fighting, and I'm just going to just do nothing for a while. So David stayed home. Well, it says that David was out and he was wandering around on top of the house, or out on the balcony, one says, but actually it was on the top of the house, because that's where they would go in the summertime. It was cooler, and David's castle or house would have been taller and the biggest one in the kingdom, and he would be able to survey all the land out in front of the house, and watch and see people who were coming up to the wall or whatever. So it says he's out there and he's just kind of wandering about. Maybe he was sunbathing, I don't know, but he's out there and he's hanging out and he's looking around, and he spots this beautiful girl taking a bath. She's naked and she's really pretty. And he automatically is just filled with this longing for her. Well, he asked his advisors and his servants to come in there, and he goes, hey, who's that chick over there? I want to know who that is. And they go, well, we don't know, but we'll find out. So they go away and they come back and they go, that's Bathsheba. And she is the granddaughter of one of your advisors and the daughter of another one of your close guys. And her husband is Uriah, the Hittite. That's one of your very best warriors. And David's like, oh, wow. Well, you know what? I want you to go get her and bring her over here. Now, Bathsheba did not know. There's no indication that Bathsheba knew that David could see her. In fact, she would have thought he couldn't, because it was the time when kings went out to battle. And David was supposed to be out with his guys. He always had gone before. So why would she have even thought that he would be in the kingdom? He wasn't. So, if anybody says that, that's misleading, and it's really not biblical at all. Bathsheba was doing her cleansing ritual, which means she was taking a bath like she's supposed to be clean, according to Jewish law. Well, he sends for her, and she comes in, and he seduced her. He laid with her. He seduced her. There's no indication that he raped her. There's nothing in any of the wording that even hints at any violence or that anything happened like that. But who would, and she didn't, and people go, why didn't she just yell for help? Well, she couldn't yell for help because who was going to come? He was the king. And if a man tried to assault you or lay with you, then you would have taken that to the king, because that's who resolved those sort of things. But he was the king, so he wasn't going to, she had nowhere to go. Well, it says that he laid with her, and then he sent her home. Well, so Bathsheba goes home, and then she's like, oh, hey, guess what? I'm pregnant. So she sends word over to David, and she goes, you know what, I'm pregnant. And he automatically goes into panic mode. Oh my gosh. Just like most of us today, when you get caught doing something you shouldn't be doing, you've done something inappropriate, or you've done something that you know is wrong, our first thing is to try to either blame somebody else, like Adam and Eve, he did it, she did it, or we hide it. Because like Adam and Eve, they got those fig leaves and tried to cover themselves up, didn't they? Because they knew that they had sinned against God. Well, David did too. And he thought, most of all, he thought, these people in the kingdom are going to find out that I'm the king and I've been mighty in battle. I mean, I beat up Goliath. I fought Saul. I came victorious over and over. And now, I mean, he's got plenty of wives and concubines. He didn't need to take her, but he did, because he wanted her. He didn't care who she was. He just cared that he wanted her, because he was bored. Didn't have anything else to do. He's up there walking around. Idle man, idle hands, idle mind. So he goes, okay. Well, so he gets Bathsheba pregnant, and he's like, how am I going to cover this up? I tell you what I'm going to do. I know what I'll do. I'll have Uriah brought in from battle, and then he'll be so happy to be home, he'll go and lay with her, and then he'll think that baby's his. So that's exactly what he did. He sent for Uriah from the battle, and Uriah came in, and he goes, hey, Uriah, here you go. He fixed him dinner. He told him what a great soldier he was, that he wanted a report of what was happening out there at the battlefield. And Uriah gave him a big old report about the battlefield, and he goes, you know what, I am so proud of you, and you are such a good soldier. I'm going to give you a break, and I want you to go home and see your wife. But guess what? Uriah didn't. Because it wasn't right. He said, this is not right. All my friends and everybody's out there, these men are dying and they're sleeping in the mud, and I'm going to go sleep with my wife? No, I'm not. I'm not. So he said he lay at the door of David. In other words, he slept right there in the palace. He did not go anywhere. And the next day, his servants said he didn't go home. He asked about him. He goes, hey, Uriah, go home? No, he didn't go home. He slept in the barracks down here, and he didn't go home. Well, so David goes, well, gosh darn. What am I going to do now? I know what. I'm going to get him drunk. You invite him up here for dinner. So he sent for Uriah, and Uriah came up that night, and they had dinner, and they had a whole bunch of wine. And so David got him drunk. I mean, he thought, oh, he'll get drunk, and his lust will overwhelm that, and he'll go home and lay with his wife. Well, he didn't. He didn't. He slept in the barracks again, and David got word the next day that Uriah still didn't go home. And he goes, well, shoot. Everybody's going to know what I've done. I'm going to have to cover this up. What am I going to do? I know what, I'm going to kill him. I'm just going to have to kill him. Get rid of the evidence, get rid of him, then I'll marry Bathsheba. Won't nobody know. I mean, they'll think it's his, and no, he won't be around to say it's not. And that's the answer. Shouldn't just be sorry and tell God I'm sorry and admit what I've done. I'm going to cover it up even more, and now I'm going to have Uriah killed. So he decided that he would write a note to the head dude and give him a piece of paper. So he sealed it up and gave it to Uriah to take to him. Uriah didn't know he was carrying his own death notice in his hand as he went back to battle. But he was, and he gave it to the head guy, and the head guy reads it, and he goes, he wants me to take Uriah, put him on the front line, so he will be killed. Okay. But David's the king. David had all the power, so that's what he did. He put him out there, and they sent him up to the wall, and it says those arrows shot down on him, and it didn't just kill Uriah, but it killed all these guys for no reason, so except to cover up David's sin. So the word comes back to David through one of the head guy's servants that this guy's dead, that Uriah's dead, and all these guys got killed. And this guy who's the head is afraid that David's going to be mad now because all these people died. And David sends a letter back to that guy and goes, tell him it's okay. You know, stuff happens. It's okay. It's okay. Well, he thinks he's gotten away with it now, but here comes Nathan the prophet, and Nathan comes to David. Nathan and he are friends because David loves God, and David is a man of God, but he has fallen into a big old pit, a vat of terribleness. So Nathan comes up to David and he goes, hey, you know what? I got a story to tell you. There's this rich guy. He's got everything. He's got houses and land and lots of sheep and cows and everything. But his neighbor is poor, and he has one little lamb that he's had since it was just a little bitty baby lamb, and he's raised this lamb up. He sleeps with it. He feeds it. It's his best friend. He loves this little lamb. But that rich man, he was so jealous of that beautiful lamb because it was beautiful and spotless. It was spotless. And he got so he wanted that so bad, he coveted it. And he killed his neighbor, that poor guy, and he took his little lamb for his own. What do you think should be done? Well, David goes, well, I'll tell you what needs to be done. He needs to be killed. He just needs to be punished. He should be killed. He should exchange his life for the life that he took. And because it's wrong. First of all, he stole, he coveted his neighbors. You know, that's a lot of sin right there. So he just needs, he should die. Well, then he realized that God had revealed to him that he had just prophesied over himself. Because he was the rich guy, and the lamb was Bathsheba, and the guy that was killed was Uriah. Well, according to the story in the Bible, that David, he knew that he was going to have to pay for it. So, Bathsheba, when she got word that Uriah had been killed, she cried and lamented. She was mourning him when David sent for her and said, "Look, you're going to be mine. I'm going to marry you, and I'll take you in to be my wife." Well, again, what was she going to do? I mean, it wasn't like she could turn him down. So she went to be David's wife. And he already had a couple other wives and some kids. But Nathan the prophet come to him and he goes, "Look, you know what's going to happen. God's going to make you pay for this. And it's going to cost you this child. I'm sorry, but it's going to cost you this child. And probably a couple more of your children too." And David, he was so upset. He realized what he had done and how he had done wrong in the eyes of God. Because David was a godly man. So David, he repented and he prayed for God to forgive him, and he wrote the 51st Psalm. That's about Bathsheba and about what he did. Now Bathsheba was just his prey, basically. She didn't have any choice about what had happened. She couldn't scream for help because the king would be the one who you would go to for help if something like this happened. But David was a king. And again, he was handsome and seductive, and he had taken her in. And don't you know that she felt guilty? Doesn't really talk about that, but as a woman, I can tell you that I would know that something was wrong, especially when the child got sick. And it says the child got sick, not the baby, but the child. So the baby is born, and then the baby gets sick. And David knew when the baby got sick that it was his fault. And it says that he lay on the floor and he wouldn't get up, and he cried, he wouldn't eat, and they couldn't even get him off the floor. They were so worried about him. They thought maybe he's going to kill himself. In fact, when the baby died, they were afraid to tell him that the baby had died because they thought really and truly he would kill himself. Once the baby died, though, he knew. He knew that was because of his sin. And he got up. It says he got up, washed, and took a bath and ate something. And they're like, why are you now getting up and taking a bath and doing this stuff when you wouldn't? Aren't you kind of doing that backwards? And he goes, is it going to make that child any less dead? I need to get up. I need to do right. So he went, and it said that he went in and he comforted Bathsheba, and that he lay with her again, and she got pregnant. And she had 4 sons after that. David never took another wife, but the first son that came was Solomon. And we know what a great and powerful king Solomon was. He was actually greater than David. And it says that at this time, David was getting old. Then by the time all this happened and they had 4 kids, then David's sons from the first couple of wives were all grown, and they were vying. They were all trying to kind of kill David, kind of get David, knock him out of the way so that they could take over the kingdom. But it says that he, in fact, did a real tricky trick and tried to involve Bathsheba in it. But Bathsheba was smarter than they gave her credit for, because she'd been around the block a time or two with David and learned some things. And she went to Solomon and told him what the brother had said. And Solomon goes, well, you know what? That's because he's trying to take over the throne. And so Nathan said, hey, we got to get David to anoint Solomon right now. Got to make it happen, because Solomon is meant to be the king. That's what God says. Solomon. So Solomon became the king. David died Bathsheba reigned on the throne with Solomon all the days of her life. She was the queen mother of Israel, of the house of David. She had a long and prosperous life, happy with her son, happy with her children. Yes, what a story of redemption. Absolutely a story of redemption. See, sometimes we just make terrible mistakes and bad choices. And God doesn't stop us from making bad choices. He'll try to put roadblocks up in our minds, in our place, but often we just plow right through that. And we just decide we're going to do it, and the devil be darned. But guess what? The devil is darned, and the devil will have his way if we let him. But David went before the Lord, and he prayed, and he screamed, and he cried out to God for forgiveness. In fact, in the 51st Psalm, which is the psalm where he's lamenting to God about what he has done with Bathsheba, it is where we get that we should be washed whiter than snow. Make in me a clean heart, O Lord. See, David sought God's grace and God's forgiveness, and God gave it to him. And Bathsheba, the picture of God's grace and goodness, is one of the great-great-great-great-grandmothers of Jesus Christ. She's the last woman listed before Mary, the mother of Christ. Uriah is also mentioned because it's very important to remember what you do in the dark is going to be brought to light. And you may think that no one else knows what you did, but God does. You can't hide anything from God. And you know what? He loves you anyway. He loved you so much that he gave you Jesus. He gave me Jesus. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. Now, I don't know how that works. Let me just say right now. People go, how does that work? I don't know. But my God is so great and strong that he absolutely can split himself off and become Jesus and the Holy Spirit. And all of those are all in one. Because I know that my God is more powerful than anything. The creator of all time and space is our God. Christ is in the Father. So if you are in Christ and he is in the Father, then you are also in the Father because he created you. It says he knew you before you were ever in your mama's belly. You are with him. What you do with your life is your choice. God will allow you to do stupid things, but he will redeem you from those stupid things. He will make a way where there seems to be no way. But it does not mean that we do not live with the consequences of our sin and our mistakes. It's like my brother, he used to like to give me the old Indian rubbing, the old Indian rope burn thing, you know. And oh my gosh, one time he rubbed my arm until he had this big old red blistery thing on it. And my mama was so mad at him because he had hurt me. And he was so sorry, though. He didn't realize he'd done it so hard. And it was hurt, and I was little. And he cried. He was so upset that he had hurt me. And even though he said he was sorry, it didn't change the fact that my arm was hurt. And I had to live with the consequences of his actions. Because what you do does affect other people. We are like pebbles in the water. Every action does have an opposite and equal reaction. But only by the grace of God can we overcome that. And God may, you have to live with the consequences of what you did, but God will help you overcome it. He will help you go through it. He will help you so you can share it with someone else. So that then he wrote the 51st Psalm so that somebody else would know of how great and marvelous God is. I thank you for listening. This is the story of David and Bathsheba. It is in 2 Samuel, and it's in the 11th and 12th chapters. Go on and read them because it is fascinating. If you don't think the Bible's interesting, I don't reckon you've actually read it. Do it. I encourage you. The lessons from the Old Testament are very pertinent to our lives today because idle hands, they are the devil's workshop. Спасибо. Пока.